Welcome to the News Hour. Tonight, the State Department says all Americans should leave Iran as protests there are entering their third week and tens of thousands of people continue to take to the streets despite a deadly crackdown. President Trump tonight said that the death toll appears significant. Western officials say at least 2,000 have been killed and perhaps many more. That would make these protests the deadliest since the 1979 revolution, and analysts say they could threaten the regime itself. Nick Schifrin reports.
Today in Iran, defiance. Protesters denounce the regime right in front of its security forces. Despite live ammunition shot into the crowds, a brutal crackdown that Western officials say has been led not by police, but by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Estimates vary widely, but Western officials said today at least 2,000 have been killed, perhaps many times that. This crackdown, combined with an internet cutoff, has led to slightly fewer protests today and a climate of extreme fear, according to a man in southern Iran we spoke to today by phone, whose name we are changing to Mehrdad.
The protests are not as big as they were last week, and from what I've heard from those in other towns, the protests are not as big since the crackdown. I was going, but not since Saturday, because it was impossible to get to the streets.
Experts call these the most serious protests in Iran's history, combining rural and urban, working and middle-class Iranians. And the ruthless response has in turn affected every Iranian.
Anyone you ask, they have family members, one or multiple, injured or killed. In the past few days of the protests, their forces have been stronger, and anyone they see on the streets, they either shoot or do something else to make them go away.
To all Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions if possible.
Today in Detroit, President Trump vowed to avenge the dead by punishing the security forces who fired into the crowds.
Save their names because they'll pay a very big price. And I've canceled all meetings with the Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stops. And all I say to them is help is on its way.
He didn't define that help, but speaking to CBS News tonight, President Trump brought up previous U.S. military strikes.
What's the end game?
The end game is to win. I like winning.
How do you define that in Iran?
Well, let's define it in Venezuela. Let's define it with al-Baghdadi. He was wiped out. Let's define it with Soleimani.
The U.S. is also working to help ensure activists can share these videos with the world by working with Starlink.
As of this morning, there are reports, confirmed reports, that the Starlink subscription is lifted, so it's plug and connect.
Ahmad Ahmadian is the executive director of the internet freedom organization Holistic Resilience. He says there are as many as 50,000 Starlinks in Iran. And eliminating subscription costs will help activists not only release videos, but also communicate with each other.
People need to get those information from their leaders, from the coordinators outside of Iran, to be able to protect themselves and also have the instructions how to coordinate, how to mobilize, saying like, where are the areas that the protest is happening, and getting those information and with working with those channels and reporters to broadcast those information back inside the country so they know what to do and what to do next.
But what the regime is doing next, planning a public execution of protester Irfan Soltani. They've already broadcast about 100 coerced confessions. An attempt to destroy the dissent that targets the regime and its sources of power. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Nick Schifrin.
Wait just a second. We have one more thing to share.
We want to say a heartfelt thank you for watching and supporting PBS News.
Without you, we simply wouldn't be able to provide the news and the information that you trust.
So thank you from everybody here at PBS News.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.